Today we are going to review E69 locomotive made by Fleischmann. This one was made in 1968, but before the review itself, let's find out this electric unit history.
Our story starts in the beginning of 20th century, when private company named LAG, Local Bahn Aktiengesellschaft, which operated local railways near Munich, purchased an electrified line between Obermgau and Murnau. It was the first electrified line in Bavaria, single track, 23 kilometers length, and it still exists today. Initially, the line was operated by D11 steam engines and LAG railcars. Number of passengers grew and additional trains were needed. And in 1905, first LAG series locomotive was built, named Katarina. It was first alternating current locomotive ever built in Germany, powered by two motors and with single traction drive, with maximum speed of 30 km per hour. Comfort level compared to steam locomotives was unmatched. Later, two sister locomotives were built, LAG 2 named Paulina and LAG 3 named Germina. They had a bit more powerful motors, but looked almost exactly as LAG 1. After the First World War, line faced passenger number decline, which temporarily stopped additional locomotives production. Anyway, in 1922, more powerful locomotive was needed, and LAG 4, named Joanna, was produced. It was completely different locomotive with a different top design and more powerful motors. However, after incident in 1929, its body was replaced, and it started resembling standard LAG locomotive series. Finally, in 1930, the last and fifth locomotive was produced, named Adolfina. It was the most powerful locomotive in the series, and again, its body looked differently compared to LAG 4 and early LAG series. And this one was intended more for freight service, although it also pulled passenger cars. In 1938, LAG company went bankrupt and was acquired by Deutsche Reichsbahn. All five locomotives later was renamed to E69 and continued their service in German Reichsbahn. In 1954, first locomotive named LAG 1 was withdrawn from service. Other locomotives were refurbished and renamed to Class 169 in 1964 and returned to their initial Bavarian route. In 1978, three remaining 169 locomotives, numbered 2, 3, and 5, were the oldest locomotives among all Deutsche Bahn fleet. Number 5 was doing freight service, and numbers 2 and 3 were still doing regular passenger service between Bernau and Bernau. Although in 1981 they were replaced by Class 141 locomotives and completely withdrawn from service. All locomotives are preserved. Number 1 is located in Deutsches Museum in Munich. Number 4 stands as monument near Murnau station. And numbers 2, 3, and 5 are fully operational. And as far as I know, number 3 and number 5 are still doing heritage rides from time to time. This locomotive was also featured in Railroad Tycoon 2 game series, as well as the first electric engine. And I suppose our today engine is LAG named 2 or 3. So let's get back to review.
Okay, now we know the story of this electric locomotive. Let's take a closer look into this model. As I told before, this model was made by Fleischmann. I suppose it was made in 1968, so this model is quite old, but already made from plastic. And as you know the story of this locomotive, it's actually not that historically accurate. It has number 12, and as you know there were only 5 LAG series locomotives, so this number is totally incorrect, but according to its look, I suppose it's Lug 2 or Lug 3 locomotive. Model is old and not in perfect condition. Some labels are faded out like this one or this one, but it's not a problem. Okay, let's take a closer look. It has white bluish color. Again, I'm not sure if it's historically correct, but actually I love this pen scheme. All rivets are very nicely done. Despite the model age, there are quite a lot of details. Lights are not working, they're just decorative. Also, model has pantograph, which supported by springs. It doesn't pick up power, but as it's metal, probably you can modify it to work that way. You can see nicely done isolators on a roof, and you can see buffers and Fleischmann coupling system. A locomotive doesn't have any cab details. Inside the cab you can observe a typical Fleischmann engine. Also, there is no glass inside, so yes, my stick is going through the windows, so no detailization here. Also, there are some small and interesting details. Also, bottom part of locomotive is actually quite nicely detailed. All ladders, resorts, and other things. On the bottom, you can observe four-wheel drive. Also label that it's made by Fleischmann in Germany. You can see drivetrain, and this locomotive is four-wheel drive and four-wheel pickup. Two-axle pickup is not it's not the most reliable pickup in the world, but the locomotive base is small, so it's best we can get. In order to remove the locomotive body, you need to unscrew two screws located here near the wheels, and opposite screw also located here. Here it's not original screw. So let me remove the body. Inside you can observe typical Fleischmann chassis from that time. Locomotive has two lead weights added for extra weight and pulling power, and we have classic Fleischmann ring-filled motor located in the middle of the locomotive. Nothing new here, it's a pancake type motor made by Fleischmann. I don't want to disassemble it at the moment, but it's actually nothing new here, and I suppose everyone knows how these motors work. Also, if you'd like to service locomotive, don't forget to oil engine shaft. It's the most important part for oiling. And in order to disassemble drivetrain, you need to remove this and this and this clips from the gears. After that, you would be able to disassemble all gearbox if you need to clean up this gearbox. Okay, let's disassemble our locomotive. Let's assemble our locomotive back. And locomotive weighs 239 grams, 40 grams. So now let's take it to the test track. Okay, now it's time to test the locomotive. I assembled this very crude test track. And now we can launch this locomotive and see at what power it's needed to start. So let's start with, okay, it's already starting, and okay, it's around 4 volts is needed for him to start. Now let's test its maximum speed, 12 volts, and it's actually very slow, but as you remember, prototype has only maximum speed of 40 kilometers per hour, so maximum speed looks almost prototypical. Actually, we can measure it. And we can calculate locomotive speed. We just check how much time does it take to complete the lap. And then we know the length of track, and we can calculate prototypical speed. So okay, it's about 18 seconds. So it took him 18 seconds to complete the oval. Oval has length of 4 meters exact, which gives him prototypical speed of 80 kilometers per hour. Twice as much as a real vehicle, but actually it's quite impressive. So I would say speed is prototypical, and keep in mind that it's 12 volts, so you usually don't use that high power to run this locomotive, so actual speed would be less, about 60 kilometers per hour, and actually it's awesome. Now let's test pulling capacity. Locomotive was both passenger and freight locomotive. So for freight locomotives, I would like to test pulling power of 1 kilo of freight wagons, and for passenger locomotives it's going to be 3 standard coaches. But we can start with 2, as 2 coaches were just realistic pulling power, realistic consist length for this locomotive. Now we have a realistic consist length for this locomotive, but definitely it's not a realistic consist. Now let me set 9 volts and see if it runs. Yeah, it runs and runs perfectly. Maybe coaches may derail due to tight curves, but so far it looks nice. Yes, I don't see any problems here. Let's add one more coach. Now we have 3 coaches. Let's give another try. 9 volts again. And I see it's moving. No problems here. So amazing pulling capacity despite its size. Really nice loco. So that concludes my review. Actually, nice locomotive, pretty sensible level of details for its age, nice performance. I cannot say nothing bad about it. So, one more thing left to do.
And let's rank our locomotive on tier list. In my opinion, it's strong B tier. Um, nice details, nice reliability, considering it's 55 years old, even awesome reliability, interesting prototype, decent pulling capacity. I cannot tell nothing bad about this locomotive. Well, probably motor is not the best one, but it works. So, thank you for watching and see you next time.